On this episode of China Uncensored, get LinkedIn to a Chinese spy network. We're really running with the Cold War II theme. And finally, here's one fight the Shaolin Temple doesn't want. This is China Uncensored. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. The Chinese Communist Party wants to target America's best and brightest. But there's more than 300 million people in the U.S. If only there was some way to narrow down and search for the ones with the right kind of credentials. All right, LinkedIn. See, I'm even on there. That's why, according to the U.S. counterintelligence chief, China is waging a super aggressive spy campaign on LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn. The Chinese Communist Party has even infiltrated the most boring social media network. And their spy campaign isn't just super aggressive, it's super effective too. Chinese agents have set up an as-of-yet undisclosed number of fake accounts, contacting thousands of LinkedIn members at a time. The Chinese agents look for foreigners with access to government and commercial secrets. Then they offer them jobs, for example at a so-called think tank in Shanghai. And once the foreigners take the job, they'll be expected to give up the secrets. Sounds sketchy and super illegal, sure, but you got to admit, it's a pretty clever way to trick people into betraying their country. Hey, it's my job. I have to do it. For money. So far, we don't know how many people this aggressive campaign has successfully recruited, but this is something both British and German authorities have warned of previously. Which is why I've added to my LinkedIn profile that I'm not a good candidate for a spy. The U.S. has asked LinkedIn to take action to shut down these Chinese agents' accounts. Could you imagine being the Chinese spy whose job it is to recruit people through LinkedIn? You thought you were going to be James Bond, but instead, you're writing the worst recruiting emails ever. And incidentally, this is not the first time LinkedIn has been at the center of some China controversy. When they went into the China market back in 2014, they started censoring users' profiles on the Chinese site if those profiles had content relating to the Tiananmen Square massacre or Falun Gong, even if those users were in America. The modern world depends on technology in space. For example, if it weren't for the GPS satellites put up by the U.S. government, I wouldn't be able to use Google Maps to find the nearest medieval times-themed restaurant and enjoy an evening of good old-fashioned jousting. So, since we rely so much on GPS satellites, this might be a problem. For years, China has been building up its anti-satellite capabilities. In 2007, China shot down one of its own weather satellites with a missile. Its most recent anti-satellite test was last year. China's authorities claimed it was just a totally normal missile defense system. The U.S., for its part, has been falling behind China and Russia for the future of space warfare. But really, these are exciting times. As a top official said, we're in Cold War II, with an arms race too, with a space race too. Now, some might tell you this could all lead to World War III, but really, that's ridiculous. It'll be Space Wars I. I said Space Wars, Disney. You can't sue me. But I wouldn't want you to worry that we won't still have warfare right here on Earth, too. Because China may also be helping with that. China is helping to set up a mountain brigade in Afghanistan to fight terrorism. And China has a long history of mountain brigades, am I right? What? It's clearly an Outlaws of the Marsh reference. Come on, people, it's a classic. It's literally one of the 4 Chinese classics. Okay, back to Afghanistan, sadly. Now, supposedly, Chinese troops won't actually be on Afghan soil, according to the Afghan embassy in Beijing. But despite that very believable denial, China has already paid for and started building a training base for Afghan troops inside Afghanistan, in the Wakhan Corridor, which is next to China's Xinjiang Autonomous Region. Xinjiang is where the Communist Party has detained up to 1 million Muslims. Is this mountain brigade really about fighting terrorism, or is it more about cutting off any hope of escape? Speaking of no escape, China's State Council has made it easy for the happy people of Macau, Hong Kong, and Taiwan to get Chinese residence cards so they can live and or work in mainland China. Surely there's no sinister catch to this. Here's the sinister catch. Misbehave, lose the card. That could spell trouble for, say, Hong Kongers who hold the incorrect view of democracy in Hong Kong, or Taiwanese who hold the incorrect view of what a country is. Speaking of gradually eroding freedoms, a new high-speed rail linking Hong Kong and mainland China is opening soon. Part of the train station inside Hong Kong has been ceded to mainland Chinese control, meaning, for example, mainland anti-subversion laws can be enforced in Hong Kong if you're, say, a dissident and accidentally step over the line. Now, I know that sounds controversial, but don't worry. The handover was done in a secret ceremony. The event was closed to press, and neither news media nor local lawmakers were given advance notice. Probably because if they announced it, too many overjoyed people would have come to the train station to celebrate this historic event, creating a public safety issue. That must be the reason. Hong Kong's chief executive Carrie Lam, who was appointed by pro-Beijing interest groups, tried to ease Hong Kongers' worries. She said it was not a ceremony per se, and also that there was nothing sneaky, which is about as reassuring as when your friend says, "Don't worry, your car is fine. You have collision insurance, right?" The Chinese Communist Party is not spiteful. I would never accuse it of that. But remember how Australia barred Chinese telecom companies from building their 5G network because of national security concerns? Well, it turns out that same day, in a total coincidence, the biggest Australian broadcaster, ABC, was blocked on the Chinese internet. Or the ban could be because I once was interviewed on ABC 6 months ago. Okay, it was probably because of Huawei. The Chinese Communist Party is trying to sinicize religions. In other words, make religions more loyal to the Chinese Communist Party. Maybe this is some sort of alternative to persecuting Christians, and Muslims, and Tibetans, and Falun Gong. I mean, wouldn't it be easier if those religions could just be more morally flexible and change their core beliefs to worship the atheist Communist Party instead of their God or whatever? Of course it would. And you know who gets it? The Shaolin Temple. They just hoisted the Chinese flag, a first in its 1,500-year history. State-run media said it was because they were leading the way in sinicization. Although, according to one Shaolin monk who spoke to Radio Free Asia, it was because authorities forced them to do it. I mean, couldn't they have fought back? Isn't fighting back what Shaolin monks are supposed to do? It's the Kung Fu movie we're all waiting to see. A small group of rebel monks takes on and defeats the entire Chinese paramilitary while playing soccer. But sadly, the only Kung Fu move they did was docile tiger, obedient dragon. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. And now it's the moment you've been waiting for, when I answer questions from fans who are a part of the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army, a group of rebel viewers who support this show on the crowdfunding website Patreon. David Michael White asks, "Chris, will you participate in No Shave November?" Oh, David, you don't remember the last time I did that? Never again. I can't do that to all of you. Unless you think it looks good. I could be talked into it. What's that, Shelley? Okay, I will not be growing a mustache again. Thanks for your question, David. And for all of you, if you want to send me your questions, become a member of the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army by supporting the show on Patreon with $1 or more per episode. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Did you know we also make a half-hour version of this show every week? It's broadcast on the NTD network in New York, LA, and San Francisco. Plus, you can watch it on our free app for Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and Roku. Or visit ChinaUncensored.tv.